It's an absolute pleasure to be amongst you today. We've talked over the last few days about a lot of depressing things, a lot of encouraging things, a lot of alarming things, all having to do with the ocean. My addiction to ocean is thanks to the previous generations, my grandparents and then my parents. And this addiction, for once being a healthy one, gave an appreciation that gives us a different lens about what human beings are, how we function on this planet, and why we exist, why we thrive. And it's all about the ocean. Now, what's really interesting about that is we don't know anything about the ocean, very little anyway, despite all the amazing accomplishments that all the esteemed people who have been part of this conference and many, many others out in the field have done over the last century of modern-day ocean exploration. You explain 72% of the planet is the ocean. Well, in a two-dimensional world, that's true. But think about this. The ocean represents 3.4 billion cubic kilometers of volume. That's 99% of our world's living space, within which almost 90% of our world's biodiversity lives and thrives. The ocean is this vast wonderland, this Pandora's box of discoveries left for us to open. I don't think this is clicking. There we go. Whoops. Click too much. Back. Thank you. I could depress you thoroughly with numbers about what's happening. We've lost 60% of our world's fish stocks. There's 220 million tons of microplastics out there, 8 tons a year added every year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've wiped out a lot of our resources because of climate change. I'm not going to bore you with that today. I will say, however, that although I'm involved with a lot of endeavors, one of the most prominent and exciting endeavors that I've had the privilege of leading to this day was deemed impossible. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't like that word because anything is possible if we put our mind to it. And it's high time that we put another tool in the toolbox of ocean exploration. We have ROVs, AUVs, submersibles. We have people diving from the surface on boats. Those are all fantastic tools for the specific purposes that they were intended for. But what we're missing is something that has been a frustration of mine since my 4th birthday when I started scuba diving. Going into this wonderland, this fireworks display of life, this universal connector called the ocean, just when things start getting interesting, all of a sudden, we have our access being denied to us. We have to go back to the surface. And that to me is so frustrating. The limit of time at the bottom of the water is one of the factors that is stopping us from being able to explore the other 95% of the planet. What if, in addition to all the fantastic tools that we have today, what if we built the International Space Station of the ocean and put it at the bottom of the sea so that we can house 12, 18 people for not an hour or a week, but weeks, months, and possibly longer to explore, to find and collect the data that we need to make better decisions on this planet, to be able to inspire the next generation to include ocean in the conversation, in whatever conversation that is. And I call this Proteus. Proteus was the eldest son of Poseidon in Greek legend. He was the keeper of knowledge and the shepherd of the sea. And that's a beautiful image to me. That's something that I feel, whether you are a diver or not, whether you've ever seen the ocean or not, is something that we should keep close to our heart. Because the more we understand how precious and valuable the ocean is to people on the ocean front and people 1,000 kilometers away equally, that it gives us everything that we love, that we know, that we cherish, that we depend on, the more we're capable of being able to protect it as if our lives depended on it, because it does. So having an International Space Station in the water is just a natural progression to the next fin step of ocean exploration. Now, Proteus will give us that luxury of time, because all of a sudden we have a house and a modern-day modular research lab that is future upgradable, that will give us that better finger on the pulse of the ocean's health, that will be able to give us all the information necessary to cure the next viral pandemic, that will give us the passion to be able to see this place as a unique oasis in space that it is. Because as much as I'm a big proponent of space exploration, what Peter's doing and what others are doing out there to go and look at other planets, all 7.8 billion of us will never get a chance to go out there. Maybe a handful. And sign me up if we get a round-trip ticket to go explore the oceans of Mars. But until then, we have so much left out here to discover, for pragmatic reasons, for implementation of solutions, and of course for the pure joy and wonder of admiring this amazing, amazing, unique blue planet. Now, it will be a game changer because it's a multi-purpose platform, and we're now actually in phase 2, so we're looking at a deployment, or installation more specifically, of Proteus being in the ocean's bottom by 2025, end of 2025, with mission 1 starting 2026. And it gives us so many things that we can use it for. An analog for space exploration and training, because there are so many similarities between space and inner space being ocean. It gives us the ability to look at pharma, biochem. Can you imagine that just a few years ago, we discovered, not we, us, but we, biochem, discovered a pain mitigator derived from the chemical composition of a cone snail venom that is 1,000 times more powerful than morphine without any of the opioid side effects. How about the fact that leukemia, or certain leukemias, are now treated with a targeted chemotherapy derived from deep water coral? It is quite literally the chemical soup that will give us all sorts of answers. And hopefully we'll have many, many more questions. Now, this platform will also be able to cater to, of course, being able to connect people with the ocean via live teleconference, by Zoom or Skype in the classroom or whatever tool you need, FaceTime, to be able to show the boom of the Goliath grouper and why that's so amazing and important. To look at the biomechanics of the mantis shrimp and its struggle when it's being hunted by the octopus. And of course, to look at dissolved carbons that are degrading our ocean's coral reefs and what we can do about it, and microplastics and so on and so forth. This is a living thing. This will have a central nervous system from which we can depend on for raw data. And of course, the people inside it will be able to give us perspectives and their expertise as they leverage that platform. Now, why do I say this? This sounds kind of crazy, sounds kind of weird. Well, because I had the opportunity a few years ago to lead a mission of 6 people in the world's last undersea remaining laboratory called Aquarius. Aquarius is today 36 years old, still in existence. It's a glorious 400 internal square feet, or about 37 square meters, within which you put 6 people to live and work in there for their mission's duration. And again, I was told using this as a platform for 31 days is impossible. And so I chose to prove them wrong. And so we were able to spend those 4 weeks, that full lunar cycle, in this antiquated habitat. And despite the fact that they had limitations, it was 9 miles off the Florida Keys, 20,000 millimeters under the sea, or 20 meters under the sea, which is the limit of your air-water interface that you can be exposed to regular air at pressure. And what it gave us is unprecedented access to the bottom. We were able to go down to 70 meters for 2.5 hours with no decompression obligations, on air, on regular scuba. We were able to go to 50 meters for almost 5 hours, and so on and so forth. So you can see the extended reach. But more importantly than that, it gave us the ability to do over 3 years worth of scientific experiments on carbon pollution, on microplastics, on predator-prey behavior, and the whole laundry list of other things that, thanks to our partnerships with universities, we were able to leverage. MIT, Northeastern University, and FIU. And maybe just as importantly as that, the experiment was also to see if people still cared about the ocean, cared to hear about the ocean. whether it was romantic stories or hard, raw data and science. And that said, we were able to connect with over 100,000 students live from the bottom of the sea, to watch and look at the beauty, look at the weird interactions that happen when we're not around. Because, again, as a scuba diver, that limited time that you have to get to the bottom and to look at its residents, they scatter, they go away. You're a foreigner, you're an alien coming down to invade their space. But the longer you stay down there and the more you live there, the more they accept you as one of them in their coral reef jungle, in the underwater cities. And that gives a different perspective and a different appreciation for all the things that happen, the dynamic environment that it is. And to me, being able to highlight this gives a much better appreciation and love for the amazing wonders that our ocean planet gives us. Now we have a problem. My grandfather built some of the first underwater habitats in the early 1960s for experimentation. Can we live underwater? What is it good for? How much science can we do? And now we only have this one antiquated marine laboratory off of the Florida Keys. And despite the 72 or so underwater, what we can call habitats in history, there are none left. Now, they were all purpose-built. They were all built for a short-term duration. We're talking about getting down there and having multiple missions over a span of at least 15 years so that we can get a better long-term trajectory of what's happening to our undersea world. Because unfortunately, most of us see the ocean as an endless resource and a garbage can, as a vacation spot. But it is a place not only of hope, it's a place that gives us all the well-being, both the tangible and intangibles. The UN describes the ocean GDP as about 27 trillion US dollars per annum. And that's just the things that we can count. So I have a bit of an argument with that because we're not counting the things that are the most valuable. The emotional sense of connection, every other breath that we take. How much is oxygen worth for all of us? How much is the water that we drink worth? All these things are very important. And to be able to understand its health is to be able to understand our future and our health. There we go. Whoops. There's a little delay there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, we'll just go to this one. It's going to be a time accelerator. I think I mentioned this before, so I'm not going to bore you with that. So some of the locations of Proteus, we're going to start with Curacao because we have an MOU with Curacao. We just signed on an EPC. It's an Italian EPC, engineering procurement firm who will help us build this habitat. And while in comparison to Aquarius, which was 400 internal square feet or 37 meters, 35 meters internal square meters, this one will be 10 times the size and modular in nature. So you can plug and play. You can keep switching the internals for the specific purpose and uses of the mission. You can switch the externals, have payloads, just like space, so that we can cater to just about anything that we need to do in the ocean. And there will be future Proteuses, which we won't call Proteus. I'm looking at Deb. But the idea is to have a network down there so that we have a better real-time understanding of where we're headed. And of course, the urgency for action is here. Like I said, I'm not going to bore you with that. You've been to plenty of sessions that have hammered that in to all of our heads. But this will pertain to at least 12, 13, and 14 of the SDGs, and probably many more. At the same time, there's a lot of excitement. A lot of excitement in space exploration, space tourism more specifically. And we're starting to feel that there's an excitement brewing for the same reasons with the undersea world that we've ignored for way too long. So we're really excited that Proteus is at the right time.